Hello, hello, everybody. Here we are again, coming to you from Broadcast Team Alpha, transmitting on 44 different platforms around the world. And this is the station for the thinking global citizen that is not afraid to step outside of the box and look what else is out there. What else are they covering up from us? What else are they lying about? This gets interesting, and we're going to find out some about that tonight because this one's going to be hot. Well, my name is Hagi, and my co-host Nori is still on sabbatical, and she'll be back after Christmas. Okay, we're looking forward to that. And we are also transmitting through this wonderful platform called Conscious Awakening Network. And because of them, we are on Roku, 3 TV stations, and a bunch of other places. So yeah, this is good. And before I introduce the guest, I want to tell you how you can connect with us. Go to broadcastteamalpha.com and click on the contact feature and send us a message, and we'll get in touch. And then if you are watching on YouTube right now, that's the better one, because that's where we also engage with the in the chat room, and Mac's going to help out with that one because I'm not very good at doing both of them here. But anyway, just do that. And also the super chat feature is open, so if you feel like you want to support us there also, that will be wonderful if you like what you hear tonight. And also Nori and I have created a spiritual think tank. If you want to be part of something that is bigger than yourself, and be part of something where you can reach into the quantum and create out of seemingly nothing in your life. Yes, quantum mechanics can help you do that. And that is what we do. So send us an email to themastermindconnection@gmail.com. And we will get in touch, and then we will get you some information. Now I want to introduce the guest, because this is good. We have Gil Carlson returning to Broadcast Team Alpha, and there he is, and he is kind of coming out of obscurity. He's been sitting back and writing 41 books. I only have 6 of them. And tonight, we're going to talk about this one, Aliens on the Moon. Yes, there is lots of evidence that that is true. We have the artifacts, we have the movie footage of actual people up there, and you're going to see a lot of the pictures in that book because we're going to talk about tonight. And this is going to be good. I introduced him very well last time, and I'm going to make it short because we want to hear from him instead of me jabbering. So welcome to the show, Gil.
Well, thank you. This is an amazing subject because we've been conditioned to think of the moon as just a boring rock and nothing happening, no life, no oxygen, everything else, but they've been lying to us. There's a lot going on there. And I cover a lot of it in my book, of course. And I don't like to brag, but what I've written is a powerful book full of a lot of amazing information. And it's going to make your head spin. And information in there that's not available elsewhere. And I hope you'll get a chance to read this book sometime.
Yeah. I want to just make a quick comment here. I see some of the pictures in here that I recognize, because in my past, I started poking around in the picture archives of NASA probably around 30 some years ago. And I recognize some of these pictures because I have the actual NASA prints in my file to some of these pictures. So we know they're real because I got them from NASA themselves. And there's some amazing pictures. And I think we should show some of those pictures a little bit later on. But
Yes, definitely. We'll get into that. And
yeah,
but kind of
talk
want
a
to do a
little.
little background here. And
Yeah,
a lot of people have wondered about my sources, where I get this information that's not generally available. And basically, I've developed search methods to uncover information that's hidden and that's hard to find. Plus, I have friends in high places in the military, government, even NASA, and they like to share things with me. And then I get help from my little friends. Don't tune out. I'm not losing my mind here. These are entities that have guided me and helped me throughout my life. And I know that may seem strange.
not strange on this show.
Okay. And they might be spirit guides or alien entities. I'm not sure, but they've been a positive influence in my life. And they've actually saved me a number of times from what could have been fatal occurrences. And they often communicate things to me. And I've learned to take it seriously. And they've often encouraged me with some of the writing of these books. And especially with this Aliens on the Moon book. And they kind of they were kind of encouraging me to write this book.
Yeah.
And they told me about the title they wanted, and they even flashed images in my head of the layout of the book. And but I wasn't interested in writing the book. I felt that there was so much more to write about aliens here on Earth. Like in some of my books, on one of them being underground alien bases and another on Dulce base. And I figured a lot of people had already written about the moon and things on there, and I wasn't sure I could come up with anything more. And then they started leading me to information, showing me little bits of information, and I became very intrigued with that. So I started doing more research, and so here we've got this book. But one thing's interesting is they were anxious for me to write the book, and there were certain things in there they wanted me to get across. And one of the things, it's right here on the cover, I put it right on there, is the moon is the key to the secret of the aliens on Earth. And that kind of led me to try to find some answers to that. And which I did.
Yep.
And
now you're also writing about that. I see you have kind of like a guide up front here where you talk about the different things. And is the moon hollow? The volcanic activity on the moon. It appears that there is something inside the crust, even though it's hollow, just like Earth. We can still have volcanic activity because the crust is kind of thick, and inside the crust you have the lava. So yes, I am totally on board with that. And here's an interesting one. Where did the moon come from?
yes.
Well, I just can't help it. I do want you to comment on that one.
Well, For a long time, we were told that the moon, the moon and the Earth were the same. The moon separated from the Earth and things like that. But then when they started getting samples of the rocks and the soil from the moon, they were uh, scientists were shocked, and what they discovered was moon rocks are over 1 billion years older than our Earth, and moon dust is 1 billion years older than the rocks. Uh, Try and get your head around that, and and both the rocks and the moon dust that the astronauts brought back are older than our sun and our entire solar system. Uh, and then chemical analysis showed that the composition of the moon rocks and the moon dust was completely different. They weren't even related to each other. So
Yep.
obviously something strange was happening there. There were theories that the moon was created, built like an artificial satellite or something, and moved in position. But some of the information that's come out is it was probably moved there somehow, and and the inside is pretty much hollow.
Yeah.
And
That's the one I'm going with. First of all, that it was moved in and parked in orbit, and for the second, that it is hollow, because there is papers and writings coming out of India and Tibet talking about the time before the moon. It's in their writing. They are talking about what Earth-like was before the moon. There were no ebb and tide in the oceans, and they talk about some of the things that puts it in a different genre than what it is now. And then again, being hollow, that is so obvious that you write about it in the book when they dumped the spacecraft on the moon, and it rang for hours afterward like a bell.
right, and the first time that happened, it rang like a bell. Second time, the next mission, they dropped part of the rocket on the moon, and it sounded like a gong, and for like hours. So obviously, there's something going on there. From what I understand, it's, I guess, the hollow out parts. It's used like it's like an alien base in there.
Yeah.
Where they can keep an eye on the Earth and control things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Nori and I have a picture on our website in the picture gallery of an it's 800 feet converted to feet, round hole in the surface of the moon going into the interior. So there is an entrance, and I'm sure there is more than one.
There's a lot of scientific evidence now that the moon is hollow to a certain extent, because of the density of the moon, and and some tests that were done. And there's even it was like back in 1972 that a meteorite struck the moon, and it sent shock waves deep into the interior of the moon, and which really baffled scientists and made a lot of them realize that there's something very unusual inside.
Yeah. And then in the moon rocks and the dust that came back, they found material that could not be there because they does not exist in nature, like titanium and brass. They found that in the dust.
Yes.
Where can that come from? That can only be manufactured. So what you said about the dust being the oldest, and then the rock being, a billion years younger than that, that could make sense because space dust, that comes from way back. Even though that the moon have maybe created at one point space dust that could date back 10, 12 billion years or more.
Yeah, it's fascinating. But the question is whether or not this was an existing moon or object that was hollowed out, or if it was actually created like a satellite.
Well,
And then rocks and things were added to it.
from what I have come to think is that it is a manufactured entity because they had, this is not written much about, but the astronauts also had a compass with them up there, and the compass on the moon is worthless. It didn't do anything for them. But there is an iron shell around it, because if you look at the craters, they can be hundreds of miles wide, but only a half a mile deep. There's something really hard down there that when then huge asteroids hit, it did not penetrate into it like it would here. It was stopped with that shell and then blew out the material like maybe 100 miles, 50 miles. Some of them are even bigger than that.
Right.
So it's not a natural earthen rock. It cannot be, because if an asteroid hit, even if it was a rocky surface, it would make a bigger dent. But if it was iron, yeah, that wouldn't do it.
And they say it behaves like rather than like a planet, it behaves more like a satellite, and it's in perfect position and doesn't spin.
Yeah.
So
yeah, perfect circle orbit,
and in
which
the
is
right
all.
position for the eclipse to block out the sun perfectly.
Mhm.
And there's a reason for that, supposedly.
Yeah, and that perfect circle orbit is almost impossible for an object to come in and catch that perfect circle. I saw there was one scientist that would be 1 out of 100,000 chance of that happening or more. I forget what the number was. It was astronomical. So it was parked. I am totally convinced of that.
And there's a lot of strange occurrences on the moon, anomalies that have been tracked for going back many years. In the 1950s, the government tracked UFOs flying back to the moon from the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And also in the 50s and 60s, there was flashing lights that were seen on the surface of the moon. And then both the Soviet and American spacecraft in orbit over the moon came up with some amazing photos and structures and things like that, which were quickly censored by NASA, of course.
Yeah.
And there's also, let's see, 33 moon dome photos from the lunar orbiter 2. And also the tall white spires that were photographed on the lunar surface.
Mhm.
And other things like roads, tracks, going through craters and rock piles, um, domes with flashing lights. And what you'd mentioned before about the spaceships, cigar-shaped objects, huge. And of course, there was the pyramids. There was one that was spotted on the dark side of the moon, and there's a photo existing of that. And,
Yep.
and there's been centuries of observations of just different strange things on the moon. And I've even included in the book a NASA compilation of all these strange things throughout the
Mhm.
years, which is really quite interesting. And there's the lights on the moon, and there was, let's see, I guess it was Operation Moonblink that
Mhm.
they created to study these, and there was many photographs that it's claimed they were never released to the public. And
Yeah, and I see you have here also, you write about the fact that there's about 200 plus photographs, NASA prints, showing moon craters with domes inside and square buildings inside.
yeah,
So,
and and another thing too is the when the astronauts landed on the moon, um, their communication back to Houston of spotting UFOs on the surface that are overlooking them, um, and they were even greeted by an alien when they got off the ship.
yeah.
And a lot of these things, well, I guess not only that broadcast was censored and cut short,
But
but
it was leaked. So I actually have heard
there
those.
was I think it was like a ham radio operator that
Yeah.
had recorded it, and but that's not the only one. There's been numerous conversations like this that
Yeah. It
in
gets
fact,
more and
I've
more
got a complete
interesting the
list of them
deeper
in
you
the
look
book.
into it. More and more interesting. And the some of the NASA prints, I got that one of my favorite prints is actually right here. And I don't know, I might as well show it.
Sure.
This one, that is a 2 mile long cigar-shaped ship floating across the surface of the moon, throwing a shadow on the ground. Now,
Yes.
this one is hard to explain away. It can't be done. And you got sources for, where they can actually find these things. And
Well, let me show you here.
yep.
Um, I've got a okay. Here's some more pictures of it.
A little
I know
further
that's the
up.
same
Yeah.
one,
Lift it up further so we can see. There you go.
isn't
Oh
it?
yeah.
And here's what's interesting. Here's a blow up of it.
Yeah.
You see all the detail.
That's a ship that is now look at, I forget now, how long is that thing?
Um, I've got all the information in my book.
It's on the picture too, I think. It is way too long to be made by
Uh,
boats and
3,000, I think it says 390 meters.
yeah,
That's long.
yeah. So that's a little over a kilometer long. That's about 3/4 of a mile long, and that's actually a little bigger than that.
And
And
what's
there,
interesting is there have been a lot of other sightings of large ships there, alien
yeah,
ships.
yeah, and here I'm looking at a lunar highway on page 45. That
Yes.
one would be good to show off because it, I mean, nature doesn't make highways.
Okay, I don't think I have that one available. You have it
Yeah,
there?
I got it right here. Let's
Okay.
see. You see that line going across right here? That is a big groove going across the surface. It looks just like a highway.
Yes, definitely. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like very straight.
Yep.
And another thing that's interesting is the bridge.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Obviously, there was somebody there on the moon building stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody a lot more skilled than us. Here's a close-up of the bridge showing the detail.
Oh, that's amazing. And now here is this one is under a little bit of controversy just because of what it looks like, but it actually is a NASA print that is blown up.
Yes, yes, we got that, and underneath it, which is supposedly an alien base.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Here's the
something.
here's the picture of the pyramid. I wish we had a larger picture of that. I assume that's the pyramid on the dark side
Yeah.
of the moon. And then what's interesting is these structures from the lunar city.
Yeah.
What's left of it?
Move it up a little bit, just a little bit. There you go.
Okay. It's an interesting looking structure.
Yeah.
And and then the city there. This
Mhm.
isn't very clear, but this shows the city on Mars or
Yeah.
Mars on the moon. And here's another picture of it down there, more detail. But definitely something's happening there. And the city on the moon, it's actually mostly in ruins now, but you can still see like shapes of buildings and structures and things
Yeah.
like that. And they claim it's uh, it's about the size of Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the square corners. That's a
Yes.
dead giveaway.
Yeah, that doesn't happen in nature.
No. The only way that you could have square corners in nature that I know of, if it is a crystalline form, small crystals will have strange shapes.
That's
And
interesting.
kind of like this one here, you have, but in nature, if it isn't crystalline form, I don't know of any other way that it could be created. And this is too big. I mean, there's one here that has a total square, very tall building, and it's over a mile long.
Is that the Shard Tower? It's a mile and a half high,
Yeah.
or are we talking about something different?
Mhm. Yeah, it is. Then
No,
there is this comprehensive, um, the comprehensive lunar. No, there's a document that NASA have. It was classified for a long time that show activities on the moon dating back 300 years to the beginning of after the invention of the telescope.
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, they've seen lights up there, they've seen shadows moving around, and they've seen explosions. Catalog of lunar events is what it's
Yes,
called.
yes, I do have that in my book,
Yeah,
and it's
I
really
saw it in
interesting.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
oh, okay. Yes, and it's really has a lot of interesting things in there.
yeah.
Oh,
This is something that is a compilation of all of the things that is called conspiracy theories. But we're going to have a problem in America very soon because we're going to have a great lack because it can be running short of conspiracy theories because they're all coming true. They need to create some more.
yeah,
And
people are wising up. They can't fool us anymore.
yeah,
Yeah, but so it should be interesting to see what happens. Now, here's you might not have covered some of the anomalies on the moon, the caverns, um, and um, and then the castle,
yeah.
which is 7 miles high and has multi-layered reflective glass panes, which is
Is that the one that they call the shard?
I think
Uh,
the shard I think is might have been
yeah,
something different.
yeah. Richard Hoagland found the shard, and he's been talking about it. That's about a 5 to 6 mile tall glass building.
This might be the same one. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
Another
There you have.
interesting thing too
Yeah.
was, excuse me, go ahead.
No, no. I was saying you have a section of the bright lights up there, and the lights moving around. That's an interesting section. It talked all the way back to 1540. They're observed
Yes,
those
they've
things.
been observed for years. It's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing too was astronaut Alan Bean. Um, he was photographed, and in his helmet, the reflection of his helmet showed an object that was just hanging several feet above the surface of the moon, and there was a shadow. It cast a
Yeah.
shadow, and it was like a suspended grid.
And there are more than one of those pyramids. Now you showed one, and there
I
are
showed
others.
one, yes, and I wish I had more of them and a closer up image,
Yeah,
but maybe I can find those later.
yeah, because there's one pyramid up in the right about pretty close to the North Pole as we are looking at it. And there is a place where there's three of them sitting in a row. And we got
Um,
pictures of that
just like in Egypt,
yeah, yeah,
it's
somewhat similar.
it's interesting that there were so many similar pyramids on
Mhm.
Earth. almost identical. And also there were some spotted on Mars as well as on the moon. So it's kind of interesting. Now they're starting to say that those were used for generating power.
Yeah,
But
could very well be. And I think they got other ways too to, they're not burning gasoline up on the moon. They have free energy. So
no.
yeah.
uh, but earlier you mentioned that we nuked the moon. It was a 2-ton kinetic missile that we used. And
Hmm.
they claim that it was a alien base we destroyed.
Well,
Uh,
I don't know. That could be. I'm open to that because if there's anything the Americans know how to do, that's to blow things up. They're good at that.
yeah, and make enemies. And
Yeah.
you don't want to piss off the aliens.
No, we've already done that, but they haven't really retaliated much. Maybe I don't know, but I haven't seen much.
I think they just look upon us as like children,
Yeah.
and supposedly they're our caretakers, and they're watching out for us. And and
Yeah, they better go to work.
oh,
Yeah.
I
What do
think
you
they just shake their head a lot.
Yeah. It's kind of like the joke goes, when the aliens fly by Earth, they lock their doors, right?
Yes, yes.
But what do you think about this thing that there may be air up there? Because there's pyramids up there. And like Nori said on our documentary on the moon, she made the comment, you don't build pyramids in spacesuits, do you? What?
uh, yeah, I don't know how concentrated it is, but there was a story about the moon landing when they planted the flag that it
Yeah,
started to blow in the wind and kind of like and
yeah.
they were quick to hide that, and in the future they used um, metal wiring inside the flag so you won't see
Mhm.
them blowing around. So
There is a few colored pictures that came back from the moon that was taken by a Hasselblad camera that they had in the capsule. And on one of those pictures, I saw the horizon, but I also saw a little bit of a layer of some lighter color that could be. It looked kind of an offshoot between green and blue, but it was very narrow over the horizon. And
hmm.
that goes along with what I have kind of discerned, and that is that yes, there's air up there, and that air is equivalent to about 18 to 20,000 feet of altitude here on Earth. So if you think about that, that's way up there. It's less than half the air pressure at sea level. So could we live? Yes, we can, because look at the Himalaya. There is people living at 15, 18,000 feet every day of their life. All they have to do is to breathe a little deeper, and they get used to that. So that's what they do all the time, and they get the same amount of oxygen. So I think it could perfectly well be air on the moon, because we also see it on Mars. They don't use the brown filter anymore now. You can see the blue skies. You can't have blue skies unless there is oxygen and moisture.
It makes
So
sense.
yeah, so they're lying to us there too. But now we're going to find out when there's private industry going to the moon. We're going to find out that, yeah, there's air up there.
You're not publicly claiming that NASA is lying to us, are you?
No, of course not. They're just misrepresentation. That's all.
Okay.
So don't
Um,
worry about it.
okay. Uh, you mentioned something earlier about the Hasselblad cameras. Um, now I'm Were those made in Norway or Sweden? I can't remember.
Swedish. Yeah.
Okay.
I used to have one long time ago.
Oh, wow. But that brings up another thing about whether the filming of the astronauts landing on the moon was actually filmed on the moon. Um, there, there are scenes that I'm sure were filmed there. But I remember an interview with the representative of Hasselblad who claiming that their cameras wouldn't be able to take those kind of pictures up there in those conditions.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't remember all the details. It was a long time ago.
That's interesting.
And there's also the talk about evidence that the landing was filmed in a studio.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, we know they did that, and they took a lot of those pictures and got them mixed in, so they don't even know which one is what anymore.
That's true. And it could have been because they weren't sure how it would come out, if they'd even be able to film the
Yeah.
landing, so that they filmed it ahead of time.
Yeah,
And
they did.
there was even there was even a scene in one of um, the landing on the moon videos that showed a person in a suit in the background walking by.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
And
Yeah, that's
that's
good.
that's funny. But it I'm sure they wanted it to come out perfect, and they couldn't
Yeah,
chance the camera's not working. But also another reason could be they didn't want to show what was actually there.
yeah,
But the surface of the moon looked like, what was there, uh, aliens or
yeah.
anything like that. And so supposedly they were there to not just as a sightseeing thing, to look around, take some nice pictures, collect some rocks.
Hmm.
They were
Yeah.
there to examine some alien bases and things like that,
Hmm.
weapons, and they couldn't let those be seen.
Yeah. But I think also that the more we learn now, there's so much information coming out, because there are people with big telescopes, and Schwartz in Canada is one of them, and Bruce Schwartz. If on YouTube, he is Bruce Sees All, and he's got a telescope so big that I could probably crawl into it, and he has blown up the moon surface, and we see ships flying around there all the time. So they are in orbit around the moon right now, and they're big ones. I mean, these are miles and miles big from one end to the other. So you wonder, what are they waiting for? There's something happening here shortly that they're probably waiting for. Whether that is first contact, or whether it's something else that's going to happen, or maybe the both of them together. So they're out there waiting for something to happen, not just around here. They're around the sun. You can see them going across in front of the sun. And one
Yes.
of them was sucking up energy from the sun into the perfect black ball, planet-sized ball sitting next to the sun. And we see, I have also a picture of a 3,000 mile long, that's a NASA print in the infrared spectrum, 3,000 mile long ship sitting outside of the outer rim of Saturn. There is no question about it. It's sitting right there. We got it on our website. We got that picture, and they are here. What do you think they're waiting for?
That's a good question.
It's
Well,
a
I know
60.
that they're involved with us, and the moon is a perfect place to to, whether it's equipment there or whatever, to keep an eye on us or control us or whatever. But I also think there's things going on the moon that have nothing to do with us,
Yeah,
and they don't want us interfering in. Well, of course, that's very obvious. They don't want us
yeah,
interfering in what they're doing. Um, there seem to be some kind of mining things going on there.
yeah.
Um, but could there be some alien military things they're preparing for? Over the centuries, there have been numerous wars between different alien
Yeah.
groups and nuclear wars. And I think there's still
Yes.
scars on the moon from alien weapons, and it's not
Yes, it
just
is.
meteorite craters. It's actually well, and of course, same thing happened to Mars, and
Mhm.
a lot of damage there.
And we know there was a nuclear disaster on Mars. The reason
Definitely.
we know that is because the concentration of xenon gas in the atmosphere is too big. Xenon gas can only show up after a nuclear discharge. Otherwise, it doesn't exist. So
And
yeah, they have
there
it.
was also nuclear wars um, back in the history of the Earth.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of things happening up there. Uh, and you mentioned Mars. Um, from what I understand, a lot of the Martians or whatever they were up there on Mars were transported to the Earth because they couldn't survive up
yeah.
there. And
Chances are we are the Martians, huh?
yep, we are them and they are us.
Yeah,
That was in one of my books on the gray
yeah.
aliens.
Mm-hmm.
But oh, also,
Yeah.
also in my, before I forget, in my book is an interesting section on NASA software that's being given away. I'm not sure
Mm.
how much of that is still available, but they were offering a lot of different things, which
Mm,
be interesting.
really?
It's
Okay, well,
in the
yeah.
book.
Well, NASA, they make a lot of stuff, and because there is public funding to it, we have access to everything they make unless it is classified. And a lot of it, yeah.
That's another thing too, is NASA gives off the impression that it's they're just exploring the universe and things like that, but actually they are more of a military entity.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
um, and there have been a lot of NASA uh, missiles and rockets and things like that
Mm-hmm.
have been destroyed by aliens because of some of the military weapons or devices on there that they didn't want spreading around the universe.
Yeah, it seems to leave that behind. Here, I see you have a section in here, the Earth before the Moon, where you talk about Dr. P. Allen. That was the astronaut, wasn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah. In fact, he used to live in Greencastle, Indiana, and I taught his dad how to fly instruments. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and he says that the moon is a satellite and came into orbit around Earth in about 11,500 to 13,000 years ago.
Mhm.
The people from India, they speak about 12,000
Okay.
in their papers. So that he is right in the middle of it. That looks about right. And I noticed also over the years, NASA, they're very protective of the good stuff. And I started digging around in the NASA archives 30 some years ago, and I found a lot of pictures that was classified. Classified, it's just a dead rock in the sky, right? That didn't make sense. So later, the last 20 years or so, or maybe 25, when I got a hold of some of those pictures that were classified before, now they're available. But they smudged out certain sections on it, so they evidently didn't want you to see some of it.
Definitely. There's a whole building um, where they do nothing but doctor the pictures.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't do a very good job of it. And they're so big and there's so many pictures, a lot of them slip by. It's like some of the ones that I have and that you have. And
Yeah.
I'm sure they're out there when they see this book and hear you, they're like, oh crap, we let that get through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I see also in here, folks, you're going to find a section on Nibiru. Actually, it's there is a picture here where you say Nibiru shown behind much smaller planet Earth. And folks, this you need to see, because Nibiru is on its way in. I don't know, it may have been 15 years ago now, but I found a picture at the Jordale Bank Observatory in Australia. They had a picture of this brown thing out there. And they didn't name it. They said, this is an object that is coming into the solar system. And kind of obvious, it would have been Nemesis or Nibiru or whatever they call it. And then I went back there about 2 weeks later and it was taken down. So in 1989, there were 3 newspaper articles, Chicago Tribune and New York Times, and there was another one that had an article on the same day about, they said, there is a huge object at the edge of our solar system on its way in. And they wrote about it, explained how big it was, and it was huge. And then the article disappeared. And I think it still can be found on in Chicago Tribune. I think they still have it, as far as somebody a few years back said they did.
Well, actually, several years ago, I wrote a book on Nibiru, and that's the title of it, Nibiru.
Oh,
And
oh,
and it's full of charts showing the path of it and where when it's expected and a lot of pictures. And I
wow.
haven't that was several years ago. I haven't really heard too much recently about this, but I know at the time when I was writing the book that they were, I guess NASA was clamping down on a lot of information for some reason.
Yeah, yeah, it is coming, and it is just like a brown dwarf star with satellites around it, like small planets around it. And when that comes through, there's a debris field behind it. And
Yes.
this debris field, if we catch ourselves going through that debris field, then all the brown gooey stuff's going to hit the fan, because we are going to get all the rocks coming down.
There's also a lot of water that comes with that. And
Yeah.
supposedly, when that passed by, that was what created the great flood of Noah's time.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
because what was it? How 90 days or something of rain
Yeah,
and that was the approximate time of the orbit passing by.
yeah. Just ask Noah; he knows all about it.
Yep, and supposedly it was Nibiru that passing by Mars that pulled off a lot of the oxygen in the atmosphere.
Yeah, I think that a lot of the atmosphere was taken off on Mars, but they still have some left. Otherwise, they wouldn't have blue skies.
I'm glad you noticed that.
Yeah,
But
yeah. This is interesting, folks. Aliens on the moon. It is. Yeah, there you go. It is fascinating stuff in here. Things that I have not seen, and I've been around a while. So you need to go have a look at that one and let people know where they can find it.
Okay, they're on Amazon. Just do an Amazon search on Gil Carlson, Gilcarlson. It's right up there. And that'll show all my books.
And I'm going to do something that I have not done for about 18 years since I quit TV. I'm going to endorse somebody else's product. And because I found Gil and I found his books, here's one of them, The Great Reset, Exposed. There's stuff in here that he dug up.
Oops, here's another one.
Yeah. Nobody.
Sorry, go back to. Sorry.
Yeah. He dug up stuff that nobody is talking about. And here's another one. I don't have many other books, but a UFO disclosure. There's stuff that come out from behind the curtain that nobody talks about also in here. And this is another one that we got to do a show on shortly, Past Lives.
That's an amazing book. Yeah. That was a personal experience that's still with me, still haunting me.
Yeah, but the thing about if you have a near-death experience, you will never be afraid of death again.
Well, it's the same thing with that past life experience. It changed everything in my life, and it showed that it's not just, our lives are not just random things. Yeah. There's things behind it. There's reasons and plans.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets deep.
Yes.
So, gosh, we are down to the end here. So, let's find a time and we will come back and talk about some of the other books also, because there's interesting stuff in every one of them. In the meantime, go to Amazon and put Gil Carlson in the search bar and you find the whole row of books.
Yes, 41.
Yeah, 41. When is the next one coming out?
Oh, I've got several in my head, but I'm kind of taking a break from them right now, working on marketing and getting these books I've got here out to more people. And I've even, just for your audience out there, I've reduced the prices on all my books on Amazon. So go in there and take advantage of that and and get a good deal. And thank you, Augie, for that.
Right. Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, well, folks, here we are down to the end of this one, and we will be back next week. We're broadcasting Alpha with a. We're going to have a round table with some interesting things happening. So we will see you then. And in the meantime, thank you very much, Gil, for being with us, because this was good. And
thank you for having me.
Be good to each other.